Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. We are here to talk about the challenge, Spies, Lies, and Allies, episode 8. My name is Allan and Luke, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, the Southern Luke Muncie.
What's up, guys?
Unfortunately, our other Canadian co-host, Miss Nikki Sin, is busy with an event right now. We miss her so much, and she'll probably be back with us next week. And Luke, what did you think about this week's episode of Spies, Lies, and Allies?
I thought that it was 90 minutes. This was one of those episodes where we complain like, oh, they could have made those two 60-minute episodes into a 90-minute episode. I feel like this one could have just been a pretty solid 60-minute episode. It was lacking in some areas.
I fully agree, and it wasn't a bad episode. When you look at like what the formula of what a good challenge episode should be, they took what they had and they made the most of it. The problem was there just wasn't a lot to make, food with. When your mom's on a budget and she makes like a really good casserole, at the end of the day, you'd rather have like a really good steak and baked potato instead any day of the week. So they did the best with what they could, but the episode we got was painfully average. But there are some good parts to it and there are some bad parts to it, and we're going to break it down. The first part we're going to talk about is we're going to jump into the house life portion. And we didn't really get to see a lot of house life or drama in this episode. We saw some conflict between two people, but that's more in the gameplay aspect. We see a fun day at the pool where all the vets are sunbathing. The women are, they're taking their tops off. They're skinny dipping in the pool. It was fun to watch. And then we see Emanuel and Tori where they're sparking up against one another. This was teased a few weeks ago. And it's big because Emanuel already had a showmance this season with Michelle Fitzgerald. Tori had a showmance with Kells. And the elephant in the room is that Emanuel looks like Tori's ex Jordan.
Yeah, I thought that Emanuel loved Michelle. It's funny how things change so quickly. But yeah, I had to laugh whenever Tori was like, he looks like Dracula with tattoos. And I thought, no, he looks like Jordan with tattoos and longer teeth.
I like that he's even bought into like that he's a vampire type thing as part of his aesthetic. And that is like Transylvania is Romania, right? Technically? Or like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do think that like Emanuel is someone that Tori would be into, and I think Emanuel is kind of into anyone that's into him. So as a couple, I don't think they're actually like a serious thing. Maybe on Tori's side, I don't know.
I think whatever might benefit her storyline, but I think he's just the right level of crazy where she can be like, okay, I vibe with this. We don't have to always be normal. We can make weird jokes that are a little creepy and weird, but yeah, I don't hate them together. Whether it's minimized or large, it's nice.
And Tori is someone who is interested in the fields that Emanuel excels in. She wants to, she dips her toes in like dancing, but she's not a real dancer. He is, he's talented. She's a person who likes talented people. And together, I mean, everyone needs their fans.
And she's number one. She's number one fan. I don't hate it. I want to see where this goes because it has potential to be really cringy. But the nice little clip we saw was okay. I'm happy with what that was.
And the other house life aspects we saw was, Jeremiah, Priscilla, Bettina kind of just talking about the idea of them going into elimination. And one of the funniest moments of the episode to me was when Jeremiah gets a confessional and then right after it's Bettina and Priscilla. And I'm like, oh, these three people exist on the show. Something must be happening with them because we haven't seen them for 7 weeks.
I feel like, and it might just be because I've been looking, I feel like we've seen Priscilla more than the other two. But as far as Bettina and Jeremiah, geez, nothing. Like all that I can remember from Jeremiah is that he was Tasha's partner and she almost drowned him. And Bettina, just that she is there in more ways than one.
No, I mean, I think Jeremiah and Bettina and Priscilla, they're all very likable. I want more of them, but at the same time, if they haven't shown up this much after 7 weeks, part of you thinks that like, well, they just don't have it. Because if you don't make that much of an impact, because Priscilla is at least a narrator.
Yes.
They just aren't in the drama, even though that, Bettina's apparently giving someone some head in the bathroom and Jeremiah is hooking up with Amber B. screen time comes naturally to some people and others it doesn't. And MTV is always going to gravitate towards the veterans who they can bank on versus the rookies who maybe they just aren't the best talkers. I mean, Amber B only has, I think, 15 confessionals going into this week, and she's been in one of the most major characters, but they don't trust her to talk in front of the camera.
Because she's insane. And honestly, I know I have a somewhat Southern accent. Some might say it's pretty intense, but Jeremiah's is very intense. And there are times that his voice is as unrecognizable as maybe someone from a foreign country.
1000%. And yeah, this is our house life aspect. There wasn't that much this episode. They stretched the most they could, but we're going to move straight into the daily challenge. Switching into the daily challenge portion, we actually had a very interesting swimming type water challenge where players went on these little jet propulsion devices underwater and would then go to an area where they would dive in and grab a puzzle piece underwater. They would go in turns as partners. And then lastly, there was one puzzle piece far away where they'd have to climb a little rope and grab the final puzzle piece. Once they retrieve all their pieces, they can unlock a box and then create a bomb detonation type puzzle. They ran it in 3 different heats. And you and I have complained many times that when they do these different heat type stuff, you can kind of rig whoever you want to win. And people don't really get a good gauge of who's doing the best other than who won their own individual heat.
Yeah, I mean, surely on this episode, they wouldn't rig for, the face and the person who's been featured the most. Surely not. But I will say, as far as the daily setup, I really liked it. Those propulsion things you said, because I would not know what to call them. It was funny to see like who figured it out, who didn't. And honestly, it made me at home as a viewer be like, I want to try that out.
And it was fascinating because there is the people who were natural in the water did well, but also someone like Josh, who is a very good swimmer, he was in last place and his heat went like in the jet propulsion aspect because he couldn't figure out how to navigate in it. He couldn't dive. He was just kind of clueless. Whereas Nelson, someone we know, I mean Scuba Nelly, someone we know who's terrible in the water, he was second when it came to that part of the competition. He beat Josh. I mean, it was anyone's game, and it was more about who had like better calm under pressure, who had the nerves, who could navigate it well. It was carnival gamey while being athletic at the same time.
Yeah, and I think we saw that with, God forbid, Big T, but she couldn't lift up her own body weight. I mean, that took some skill and athleticism. This is a total sidebar, though. Whenever TJ was like, my yacht, times are treating me good. I'm like, TJ, this is not your yacht. This is a rented yacht, the production rented. Tom's might be great for you, but this is not your yacht in Croatia. Sidebar over.
I would love if Jeff Probst just started doing that on Survivor with like random items.
I would have loved it if the yacht would have been there and Jeff Probst would have went by on just a little boat, just like a little crossover event. But yeah, the carnival game aspect, as much as some people might say, oh, I hate it because it evens the playing field. Well, they wouldn't say that. That's what I'm saying because I'm biased. I like it because it evens the playing field. Scuba Nelly cannot swim. And honestly, before he went in, I thought, well, this is over for him. But he really didn't have to rely on the swimming skills. It was just coordination and working the propulsion device.
Calling it a propulsion device. People call it that when I did the trailer breakdown because I had no idea what to call it. And I'm like, thank you for whoever commented on that. But they competed in heats. The first heat had 4 teams, Kyle and Amanda. The winners of that heat were, my bad.
Devin and Amber, correct?
Yeah, Devin and Amber. Big T and Jeremiah did terribly. They both did poorly as a pair. And then the runner-up pair for that heat was
it Emanuel and Casey?
No, Emanuel and Casey were in the final heat. Apologies to everyone because I have that heat in my mind because that's the important heat.
Oh, Tori and Ed.
Tori and Ed. Yeah, Tori and Ed, who I thought had a very good shot of winning this challenge because they've won a water challenge already this season. But as we learned, it wasn't all swimming. And, I mean, Amber and Devin really impressed in this challenge. Amber continues to do really well in basically every single facet of the game. Devin kills a puzzle after, when they called him like the puzzle god or whatever, I had a lot of like, okay, like let's calm down here type moments. But he did get the win in this competition, and he continues to prove to be strong mentally.
No, I agree. Devin is such a mediocre human from just the looks of it, but he excels in lots of these different strange aspects of the challenge, and that's why I think he can make it somewhat far in some of these games because he flies under the radar in some aspects. Amber B, who I'm still calling Amber B, last week on our episode, I said, "Oh, she's growing on me." This episode, she chipped away at me like in a negative way. After they won their heat, she jumped up on Devin and like wrapped her legs around him and wouldn't let go. I'm like, come on, girl. It's very desperate to me. Not that she wants Devin, but
Yeah.
just like you're giving off this weird persona. Like,
She's affectionate. I mean, I'm not gonna. I did have the same thought in the back of my mind, but I'm not gonna say it in a hater way, like you are right
I
now.
just did, yeah. Like I'll fully own it. Like, sorry.
No, in my files, I titled that. I have a photo of that, and I titled it Koala Amber because she wrapped around him like a koala. Um,
And it wouldn't have bothered me if it had lasted 2 seconds less, but it verged on the point of okay.
you could tell Devin's face is like, when are you gonna let go of me?
He pats her like, okay, it's time. Like my legs are actually giving out. But yeah,
He's like, we did well, but we're not that close, Amber. uh, yeah, I mean, another funny moment in this heat was Amanda being like, I just hope Kyle can maybe help a little bit on the puzzle. And Kyle's like, Amanda, you're the puzzle person. I'm the athlete. I'm like, Kyle, I haven't thought you were an athlete this whole season. You've been phoning it in this whole game.
and she says, I hope there's something other than Botox up there. And I'm thinking, there's not. There's just Botox and porcelain teeth.
Ooh boy. But yeah, that first heat really taught us a lot about the game. And Jeremiah, this whole episode, I like him, but he keeps mentioning that Big T is like a little bit weak when it took him forever to get his first puzzle piece.
Yeah, she might have struggled climbing up the rope, her bad. But yeah, he's not been super impressive this entire season.
I think only two females climbed up the rope in the entire thing, though. I think all the men did that part of the competition because, you know, it looked kind of high to get up, and you had to get like a good certain grip. Like Big T was doing a good job at holding herself at a certain place, but she couldn't just grab up and get it because she's very small. In the second heat, though, we see Berna and Huey. We see Nelson and Priscilla. We see Josh and Ashley. And then we have a fourth team who is not coming to mind as I speak. And I apologize to all of you right now, but I can tell you they did not win this challenge.
No, they did not. I can't think of it either. So my bad. But that's because they didn't win the heat.
And right off to the start, Berna and Huey kill it. They know because they have to win this competition to stay out of elimination. Berna really impresses me in this challenge because she was one of the only women to climb the rope, and she did it so fast. She just got up there, they got their puzzle pieces, and they got going. Nelson and Priscilla, they tried their best. Josh and Ashley were in last place in the water aspect, but when it came down to the puzzle, Ashley said it like, these guys are idiots. If I lose to them, what does that say about me?
And I know we just said we didn't like that Devin was like, I'm a puzzle god. Anytime Ashley says she's a puzzle queen, I'm like, yeah, you are actually. There's been a few flukes, but you're pretty good at these things. And she rocked it out.
Yeah, I mean, and Berna and Huey, they blew a massive lead because they were there for a long time compared to Josh and Ashley, and they almost got the win, but I don't think it would have mattered anyway, as we see later. We go into the final heat, and Corey says, like, this is the powerhouse heat. It's CT and Emmy, it's Logan and Nani, it's Casey and Emmanuel, and it's myself and Bettina. And I'm like, what do we know about Bettina? What do like, like, is there something about Bettina that I don't know? But then everyone else in the house is treating Bettina like a strong player, kind of.
Strong jaws, maybe? I don't know. Uh, there's those rumors.
No,
That's
because someone
fascinating.
else even in later in the episode, like, well, yeah, Bettina's a beast. Like, someone dropped that note just randomly. I'm like, what are we not seeing?
Lots apparently, but yeah, it felt very off him to say that. But honestly, if there was a heat that I'd be fearful of being in, it would definitely be that one.
And in this heat, Corey wasn't lying because all the teams were killing it in the water. We never saw Bettina in the water, but I think her and Corey were in second place in that aspect. Crushed it. Also doing pretty well. But then, as CT said, like, you give me a puzzle and I'm gonna win.
And Emmy's role, she even explained it. She's like, I'm basically like a tie rack. I just got to put all the puzzles in a place where CT can clearly see them. I don't do anything with it. I just want to make sure that he knows the puzzle pieces are there.
And honestly, that's how CT works best. You know, looking back to even last season when he was with Amber B, there were lots of instances where he was just like, let me take this. I've got this. You do what you're good at, which is running or handing me pieces or whatever it may be. And Emmy fits that role quite perfectly.
It really is like watching a dad construct something and the son is just there to like, here's the flashlight, dad. Here's a glass of water. It's like, what do you need type stuff. And then, that's how CT operates best, which doesn't work for some people, but for CT, that's how he likes to operate. Bettina, she tries her darndest at the puzzle, knowing that Corey can't do a puzzle. And she asks for a check and she's just way wrong.
No, I was watching and I was like, wait, who? I had no clue who was going to win the heat. I was like, are they about to do this? Is Corey correct? She's a powerhouse? She's not. Not that I've seen.
I mean, great personality though, and
Yeah.
she looked fantastic. I mean, look, my eyes were on Bettina as she was doing the puzzle. I wasn't looking at her puzzle, but I was looking at her for sure.
And she's got a killer laugh.
So CT and Emmy win the third heat, and then TJ announces that the winners of the overall challenge are CT and Emmy. No surprise there. And what I took away from this was that if Berna was CT's partner, they would have won this daily challenge as well. So it was a clutch steal from Emmy because now that you're like, not only are you safe, but you have power to now knock out Berna. Oof, baby.
I felt bad for Berna as much as I don't like her because you could just see on her face, yep, this was taken from me. I could have been safe yet another week. I could have been with CT. I'm not going to say Uncle CT because I'm tired of hearing that. But I sympathized for her.
I don't, because I thought Emmy made a good move for herself. And I'm not a big Emmy fan, but I thought it was a great move. It comes in clutch. It shows you how the butterfly effects of this game can be huge. Another takeaway is that I really would have liked if all three teams in this daily challenge who won their heat had been safe, only because that would have made the politics way more interesting of who gets voted in, who gets thrown down.
Yeah, and when Allan and I discussed this earlier, I even said, even if they just put the three winning teams in a heat together, because I hate when there's multiple heats, you never know who the true winner is. When we had the daily where Tori and Ed won the last time, it's hard to tell if they actually won because production could give that to whatever heat winner they wanted to. So I don't love that aspect of the game.
And it just leads to people sometimes phoning it in or not even caring if they lost. Yeah, I mean, but good for CT and Emmy because, Emmy has been giving her heart to this game and she gets this win. And, when someone that erratic is in power, it's always good TV.
No, I agree. She's growing on me slowly but surely.
Any other things you want to talk about with this daily challenge?
Not really. It lasted like 10 minutes too long for me, but that's okay. The winners were predictable, but they did good, so I can't hate on it.
And I did gain more respect for certain players from this challenge, just seeing them do well. So even though it did go a bit long, at least we didn't get nothing out of it.
There, I would agree.
Yeah. And now moving into the politics and drama portion, which there are a lot of in this game. Switching over into the gameplay, politics, strategy portion, we see at the beginning of the episode, Devin and Kyle and all the vets are just kind of laughing and just smiling at the idea that after all these eliminations, there are still rookie pairs in the game. This should have stopped weeks ago, but they've convinced these rookies that it's a good strategy to pick a vet so that they'll be safe and that there won't be a target on them. In reality, it's led to the vets just being able to coast through. And Josh even says when sunbathing, like, "Oh, it's a good time to be a vet in this game," and it just pisses me off because Josh has been so annoying. I'm like, I don't want you to coast ever.
It made me mad too because at this point, this is Josh's fifth season, correct? Pretty sure,
Yeah.
Fourth or fifth. Like he is a vet, even by like old school standards. I hate to say it, but like he's been on enough seasons. But it's like, Josh, when has it ever not benefited you to be a vet? like every season he's been on, he's been able to coast at least a little bit just because he's been a previous player. And he's lucky that he was even invited back after he was kicked off his first season for being a failure. He's been
Oh
so
wow, yeah,
annoying
good
this
throwback.
he's been so annoying this season. And I know that it's partially because he's very responsible for Fessy leaving and even Esther because she likely would have been safe last week. But it's like, shut up, Josh. Shut up. When I think of vet, I don't think Josh Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be one of those things that like gets people mad, but like Josh has done more seasons than Landon, and you just hear those words out loud, and it boils your blood in some certain ways. But that it's just the truth. But yeah, these vets have somehow convinced these rookies to play the dumbest way possible for them. Priscilla has been very observant of it, and she's mostly just stayed out of elimination with a good social game. She's not been in the drama, but she knows that if she goes in, she has to split that up. And it's just interesting to see the rookies who hadn't gone in. You know, they know their time is coming, but it's how they play after the fact.
Yeah, and to touch back a little bit about the conversation about the vets dominating, I feel like that definitely contributes to maybe us wanting these to be 60-minute episodes or things are a little bit stale because it's the same thing week after week. And while this is such a smart game for the vets, I love seeing people like Priscilla be like, wait a second, we've got to do something before I'm just the next person thrown in there.
And the only problem with that was that that should have happened 6 weeks ago. Um, and I think one of the reasons why this vet alliance has been so stable is that you have a lot of people who either are confident in themselves in a good way or a bad way. Because Josh just wants to be on TV for as long as he can because he thinks for some reason he's a real contender when he can't beat any of those actual vets in elimination. People like Ashley and Amanda know that the longer they stay, the higher chance is they have to winning because they're built for finals. Casey just thinks she's awesome. Nani plays this way every season. Tori, I mean, she's just glad she didn't get like eliminated on episode like 3 or 4 again. CT knows he's good. Corey knows he's good. But like, you know, some people just want TV time.
And we've discussed this before on this podcast, but you know, you just mentioned several people are playing the same game as always. That's great, but a lot of the people that are still there have never won. And are they going to be able to win a season like this if they just keep all the strongest people around them? It's smart for them in one aspect to stay with this big group until the halfway point. But they totally could have worked their social skills. And I'm honestly thinking of Nani more than anybody. She's a social butterfly. Like, who knows how she's going to finish on this season? Hopefully she gets a win. I just don't see it with the girls that are in the Vet Alliance.
It's tough for her because I don't see it happening, and it's my problem with Nani. I love Nani, but she doesn't play a game that is conducive to winning, and you know she has the skill sets to pull off a win if she changed who she was as a human. But we love Nani because she is a good person and she doesn't think that way, and she tries to play on a friendship type style, but it can become frustrating. And at this point, I'm personally just done with her and Casey. I love them as a couple on Instagram. I've mentioned this before, but I need a break from them because they need to change up how they're playing for a television aspect. People who are into some drama though are Berna and Amber. And Berna is just crying. She's emotional. She's felt blindsided, you know, by Emmy taking CT, which to me is insane because she warned Emmy the previous episode, like, don't take Uncle CT from me.
Yeah. Berna and me just are going to butt heads, I think. I have nothing positive to say.
I get what you're saying because to me it was very hypocritical because she just for weeks she's been like, Amber, stop crying about being blindsided, and the second she gets blindsided she's just in complete tears about it. But then Amber on the other side, you know, she's just still talking and talking and talking, and these two people don't realize they're both at the bottom of the totem pole.
Amber B is delusional. She's been growing on me this season, like I said, but this episode, you know, when she's screaming, I'm a champ, and it's like, you won last season, and I can't take away her athletic prowess that she showed in that final. She had it, but she was carried to the final. She won elimination, sure. They were against very small girls. I'm going to knock her for a second. Given any other circumstance on the show, I can't guarantee that she would have won a final unless she was with CT. Actually, I don't know, because I'm thinking differently now. She was really good. But what she doesn't realize is that these vets don't care that she's a champ. And if anything, that makes them dislike her more.
Yeah, the way she's talking to Berna and she's just getting into it at these deliberations, she's not realizing that the vets are going to throw you in first in a house vote once all these rookies are gone. She mentions I have friends in this game, I have friends in this house, and I don't see anyone really sticking up for her. I don't see anyone. I mean, you see Amanda who's I don't like Berna, but she's speaking some truth about Amber.
Well, that's what I was going to say. As Berna was saying these things, it did a pan out. You can see people shaking their heads well, that is true. Yes, she is annoying. Yeah, she's talking too much. And Amber just doesn't get it because she lives in this self-made reality.
It's funny though, because I like that she lives in this reality because it's a certain type of character where her there are Amber B fans who don't understand who she is. They see all the stuff she posts on social media. It's oh, she's unbothered. She's this. I'm dude, she's just playing you all. She's manipulating everyone. She's playing there's nothing wrong with playing the victim if you're good at it.
She's good at it. And maybe that's why she's grown on me a little bit this season, because I can at least see that aspect of her game. But then there are also times where I see videos of her in the real world and she acts the exact same, just weird, quirky way. And I'm stuck. So the jury's still out as far as it goes for me.
I always thought that with Cara Maria Sorbello, she's the only child, and I was an only child growing up. And there are times where when you're used to getting your way as being the only child, you know how to manipulate certain situations. You just learn how to get your own way because the parents are used to the attention being all on you. And I get that same vibe from Amber, where she just keeps talking and talking her story. She won't get over certain things. And then Berna's I don't like you, dude. I'm not trying to make something bigger. I just don't like you. Why can't you just understand that?
And the craziest thing is, Amber's not an only child. She just has a victim complex.
Mean hater.
That's okay. I think I've accepted my role as a hater who can sometimes like people. I just,
yeah. You're a complex human. We don't have to have one opinion of a person. I mean,
all I could think of while they were going back and forth was, dear God, please do not ever have them as a rivals pair, because I would literally want them out week 1. It would be too annoying.
That would be the most passive-aggressive rivals pairing of all time. They wouldn't even be cursing each other out like good rivals pairs will. They'll just be being very shady towards one another and looking the other way in their confessionals.
Hugs, peace, blessings. I hate that girl. I hate that girl too. The scary thing is, though, they'd be a pretty good pair.
Oh, yeah, they'd be very strong together. Another one of my favorite parts of the episode was Bettina in the club. She starts kind of hyping up a drunk Amber. Hey, you're so strong. You're so powerful. I could never go into elimination. I wish I had your mindset. You're such a good player. And your guy, your boy toy, your showman, Jeremiah, if you went into elimination with him, he would appreciate it so much. And I would too, because you'd be saving everyone's day. And she was just feeding Amber's ego, and Amber is yeah, I should go into elimination for no reason.
I absolutely love that, because from the outside looking in, that's the dumbest decision ever. Why would you ever jeopardize that for someone you met a couple weeks ago? But Bettina is working her butt off to stay out of there, and I don't hate it at all. It was so smart. And even like you said, she took advantage of a drunk Amber, but who cares? Amber, whether she's drunk or sober, still said the thing she said.
Bettina played the role of adorable, Bettina understands, she sees me as this adorable Swedish girl. Let me just charm her and build her up. Bettina knows what she's doing, man. Where'd that come from? That had to be one of the more savvy moments I've seen from a rookie in challenge history.
Yeah, and you talked about it in your cast breakdown video before the season started with Bettina. She's got some impressive moves to her her previous shows that she's done. So I'm happy to see that come out on this show.
It was just shocking because we haven't seen any gameplay like that from a rookie thus far this season, and they haven't done a good job of like moving the target off them. They all, so good for her, man. And then Priscilla, she talked to Jeremiah. It's like we're probably going in together, and they're very confident in their abilities. At the deliberation, Priscilla even brings up the idea that Amber said she was going to volunteer for elimination. And Amber gets flustered. She tries to deflect. It was just hilarious.
It was great because Amber had such an attitude, and Priscilla was like, "Don't get an attitude," and she's like, "Oh," like had an even worse attitude. I'm like, "You're not helping yourself." But she knew in that moment, I really shouldn't have said that last night. I shouldn't have been in the club screaming, "I'm a champ, I'm a champ, I'm a champ."
The most interesting takeaway, though, of like once Priscilla starts talking, is Ashley mentioning the idea that like, well, if you win elimination, you better take someone from a vet rookie pair, so that way there'll be a double rookie pair. You don't want to get a target on you because if you split up a vet pair, all of us vets are going to go after you. And Priscilla's like, oh, that's a threat. Like I don't like that it's a threat. Like I might have split up a vet rookie pair if I was playing normally, but now that you've said that, if I win, gloves are off.
And while I was watching this, I'm not discrediting Priscilla. I think she's a smart girl. Would that thought have crossed her mind had Ashley and Tori not brought that up? I mean, more so Ashley than anybody. Who knows? She might have just thought, I'd like to be with Nelson still. We've worked well together. But I think when Ashley put that idea out into the air, she crumbled that for herself.
Yeah, when Tori first mentioned it, I thought it was like a teacher or like a kid telling a teacher like, "Hey, you forgot to give us homework," and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, what's going on, Tori?" But then when Ashley doubled down on it, I really didn't like that play from Ashley specifically because it's kind of a scare tactic. And I know that like the vets have done a really good job of influencing all the rookies' gameplay, but once you get into this actual like threat type mode, you're putting the gun in your hand. And it's really easy to point the finger at you now.
Yeah, I love Ashley, but I'll willingly say it makes her look scared in this game because she's thinking, oh, if we're all in, vet rookie pairs, maybe I'm the first to go. And she's showing her cards that that's her fear. And if people know that's her fear, it gives them reason to say, well, she's expecting it. We can throw her in first.
It's big, yeah. And that's the way the game goes. Huey and Berna are the house vote like everyone expected. When they get to the actual proving ground or lair or whatever they're calling it this season, there was an elimination. There was an elimination called the proving ground, right?
Yes, there was.
That was last season. All right, okay, cool. CT and Emmy, they have to decide on who they're going to throw in. They throw in Priscilla and Jeremiah because they're both rookies.
And it makes sense.
So we get a matchup of 4 rookies, Jeremiah and Priscilla versus Huey and Berna. And the elimination, we're going to talk about right now in the elimination portion.
Moving into the elimination portion, players played a very fascinating elimination where they were tied behind each other's back by the hand with a rope and then had to climb up a giant telephone pole type their back foot the entire time. There needed to be team synchronization. There needed to be balance. It was an elimination I love when 2 partners play it because there's a small physical aspect, but it's mostly a chemistry portion where anyone can kind of win.
Totally agree. That was my main takeaway, that this is simple enough that I can get invested in it. It's not going to take 25 minutes. And if you lose, it's not like you can say, oh, this was rigged or we could have done this. Like, it's just, can you work with your partner?
And to be completely frank, my brain turned off when the rules were happening. So like I didn't know what the elimination was. Then it started and I was like, oh, I understand this. I get this. Like this, I get what they're doing. And that's what all elimination should be. You should be able to look at it and just be like, all right, that's an elimination. Before they went in, Priscilla and Jeremiah were hyped. They were like dancing. They were prepping. You would think they've been partners all season.
No, I'd love to see it. They just had a confidence that it was clear that Berna and Huey did not have.
Yeah, it was so funny because you could see why they've lasted 7 episodes without going into elimination, because they are cool, confident, and they're physically in great shape. They both look beautiful. I mean, they're both gorgeous human beings. God damn. Berna and Huey, on the other hand, they look like a mess because Huey always looks like a mess. Berna is crying. Like, oh yeah, we've been in elimination before. They haven't. It's like you guys sound lost.
Yeah, and honestly, like being in elimination before it is not that much of an advantage because they're different every single elimination round. This isn't an older season where they like rotate through the different elimination rounds and they've seen this one before. They had two totally different things.
I do think when you've been in elimination before, it just changes a person because you fight for your life, and you know how people react in that situation is different, especially if it's something highly endurance based. Yeah, I mean they have wins on their shoulders. You know, they know what it's like. They know what it's like to fight. But when the elimination got started, you couldn't tell who had been in elimination because Jeremiah and Priscilla were calm, cool, and collected, and they were just going up the ladder seamlessly. They talked it through with each other. They made sure to go together. Berna and Huey, on the other hand, Berna was just trying to climb up as fast as she could. Not think like she was like, "Oh, I'll carry Huey," not realizing that that's not the elimination itself. You guys need to work together and be in synchronization.
Totally agree. Priscilla and Jeremiah, it was so nice to see a pairing not yell at one another, just calmly. This is what we've got to do. Let's do it. Berna, every man for her themselves in her book, which as I watched this, I thought, dang, Berna could probably really excel on an individual season. But I hate to even say that about people on a paired season or a team season because that just means they're not really that great of a player if they can't understand what the restrictions of the game are. And in this situation, she didn't.
Ninja Natalie, I mean, she came in first place of the female side of War of the Worlds 1, which is probably like one of the top three, top maybe one female cast all time in terms of strength. But then we saw her in War of the Worlds 2, where everyone hated her. She's like, "You're bringing down our team." It's like you got Zach splashing her in the water, people just being disgusted by the sight of her.
Me too.
Being a team player matters on the challenge. I mean, there are people who thrive as individuals and people who do well in pairs. And I mean, our girl Nani, she's great in a pair setting because she performs to the level of her partner. She complements them in a good way. She doesn't have glaring weaknesses, but as an individual, those flaws bring her down.
So agree. And you know, oftentimes in episodes, they try to edit it so it looks like it's close. This was one from, like you said, the very first like 4 or 5 seconds. I thought, oh, well, I know who wins this. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah, and it must be mentioned that to win this elimination, you have to cut the rope you're on with a little blade at the top of the pole. And it looked like the top of that pole was a bit difficult to balance on, and especially like move your hand. That part actually really terrified me because I'd be so afraid of accidentally slicing the side of my wrist open on that blade. I'm sure it wasn't that, sharp, and they probably I think they had gloves too, but I'd just be terrified.
No, the entire time I had that thought going through my head. And I also thought, when one of the ropes breaks, are you not both going to just like fling towards one another, towards the blade and off the pole? Because my assumption is if you fall, you have to climb back up. And it would be even harder with one hand tied.
Yeah, I did think a little bit of me was like, why aren't they just like going on the small part of the rope that's there and just trying to rip it with their forearm strength? But that could have led to them falling off disastrously, and we don't know what would have happened from there. No chance in this, especially because at the top of the pole, Huey had no footing because of his giant BBL. And MTV even threw up the hashtag disaster. I in my brain, I was like, oh, BB loser. That was like my brain going, as the hashtag.
It's so funny to me because whenever the cast was announced, I remember hating on Huey. I'm a hater at this point. You guys know this. Hating on Huey for his BBL. And people are like, oh, come on. That's not a detriment. Like, it's just fat in his ass. It was a detriment. Climbing up that pole, took back strength, but if you can't even position your back to get up that pole because your enormous ass is in the way, it's a detriment. The BBL,
It's
get it lipoed out or something. Or if you're going to keep it, the challenge is not for you.
I mean, you ever play those carnival games where you have like the giant balloons on your butt and you gotta try and knock someone off? I mean, that's Huey just competing in everyday life in that elimination.
Except the balloons just never come off; they're just there.
Yeah, they're just. So yeah, I mean, Priscilla and Jeremiah, they kill it. They get the win. They come off the thing and they're hyped. They killed that elimination, and I'm looking at both of them in a much better light than I did before. They're a good pair. Berna and Huey. I don't know what to say. I mean, like, I think Huey has like hit his expiration date because he feels less entertaining than he was a few weeks ago. You see some of his posts on social media, you're definitely over Huey with some of the words he has and just the way he behaves. And Berna, the way it was edited, I wish that we had seen more of a villainous Berna because this loss doesn't feel as satisfying as it should.
Yeah, and I think we've discussed this before. If you're going to play the villain role, you cannot backtrack from that. If you want to be this angry person who does not like Amber B and is mad at Emmy and is mad at CT, you can't be crying and asking for love and you are my sister and things like this. You have to be a straight up savage because you're on a reality TV show. You're going to be edited as a character, and her character now is inconsistent, and that leads for fans to call you crazy.
I blame MTV as well because I don't think they went all in on Berna's edit. I mean, apparently her and Nelson were fighting a lot this season. CT didn't want her as a partner when she is obviously a physical beast herself. So there are issues there. And MTV, I think, didn't want her to get too much hate because I think they like her in some ways. I think they want to bring her back. But MTV, sometimes you just need to go all in and give us that villain, man, because this could have been a really satisfying loss on the sides for Amber and Emmy, and instead it's just lukewarm and underwhelming. And people were like, "Oh, well, she lost with Huey," and just it's a very mixed emotion type stuff. It's a very C plus ending to like a very C plus episode.
As much as I dislike her, I can acknowledge when someone's a good cast member. I would really like to see her on a future season, specifically, as I said, an individual season, because I feel like that's when she could definitely amp up that villain role.
And people would just hate her because she just has that presence to her of like, other people are annoyed by her. And Amber even mentioned like, you kind of are snobby. She's got a little bit of snobby nose, just the way she had, like she exists. I did find it funny though when Berna gets eliminated and Amber's like, ha ha, Berna, like I won our battle. And I'm like, dude, you needed Berna in this game because now you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
No, literally. I would not be shocked to see Amber go in the next few weeks just because she's rubbing everybody the wrong way. And we'll talk about the pairings after this, but like she has an even greater chance to actually pick the new pairs.
Yep. And Priscilla, after the elimination, she announces she's making a move and she steals Josh as a way to spite Ashley. And because Ashley is the one who said, like, we'll be coming after you. And I thought Ashley was very unnecessarily angry in this moment because because the fear she's looking even more afraid by reacting to Priscilla in such a way. And I gotta appreciate Priscilla for having the balls to make that move. I don't think she picked the right partner. I think she should have took Kyle instead of Josh because I think it'll be easier for people to put in Josh as a house vote and go with what Ashley said of like we'll target you, whereas Kyle has more connections. But it was a good move. I thought so.
I agree. I love Ashley. She messed up. Here's her bed, lay in it. She totally could have played that off and be like, girl, you got me. Like the playing field's even now. Like that's a great move. And it would have minimized, the anger she showed in the deliberation. But yeah, she just puts a bigger target on her back and it's not a good look.
It's tough to see. And then Jeremiah, he picks Tori because he's like, Tori's a good player. And she is. This means that Nelson gets Big T as a partner. And that's a hilarious duo. Nelson didn't look happy, but I think he wasn't happy because the vet truce is over and because he just lost Berna.
Yeah, Nelly T, Big T, all the T's. I think it'll be funny in the upcoming weeks, but I can't see them staying together for long.
No, I could see Big T going into an elimination soon as well. especially if this format stays packed, where she might get viewed as one of the weakest girls, and if someone is trying to get out a strong male player, they'll partner with them. And sorry, Big T fans, but that's a reality of the game. People don't view her that highly right now. Ed and Ashley are a pair now, and Ed is happy, and because he's just Ed, he's just living in his own world. Ashley gives him a hug because she's like, I can't deny how happy he is, but she's still mean mugging. She's angry. And for Ashley, I'm like, from a competitive standpoint, Ed is an upgrade over Josh. I would rather, I feel like Ed is someone who could actually win a final.
No, I totally agree. I watched one of Amanda's lives that she did with Michelle before their fallout and Ashley, and she said that the one person Ashley did not like the most in the house was Ed. So I'm interested to see if that was something that happened before they were partnered together and like there's just going to be residual damage, or if this is something that happens after they're partnered together. So I'm excited to see these two country bumpkins just do it together.
I like that Ed is a country guy, but he's from New Jersey, like born and like raised.
He's from whatever it's called. I'm not even gonna butcher it, but he's from a very like rural area of New Jersey, but still like that's not the South.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
just yeah.
Conshohocken, that's what it is. Conshohocken.
I'm real proud of you for saying that.
Thank you.
That was real impressive. But yeah, now we're down. We have no more rookie pairs, and it's really interesting to see who will get voted in next. And I think immediately your brain goes to Priscilla and Josh because of the promise they made on last week. There is also the idea that I think the vet pairs are safe. So Kyle and Amanda, Devin and Amber. Amber, I think she would get voted in most situations as a pair. No, I think Amber could get voted in as an individual, but she's not going to go in for the House vote because people love Devin, and Devin is controlling a lot of the politics. Nelson and Big T are safe on the idea that they're a dual vet pair, but Big T is on the bottom of the vet totem pole, and from there it just gets interesting.
I even considered, they might throw in Ashley and Ed. Ashley, you're a champ, two-time champ. You looked scared last week. And Ed, because, hey, you came in this game late, and sure, you've been into elimination, but you're an easy target. So, like you said, it's truly a toss-up. I have no clue.
I think Casey and Emanuel are good because they're a strong team. I think CT and Emmy are good because people are terrified of CT. Nani and Logan, people love them. In the trailer, though, for next week, we see people getting mad at Corey, and Corey even throws out the idea of it's like, I don't care, throw me in. And Corey is someone who's had an impeccable social game where he wouldn't have gone into elimination on either of the last two seasons if they didn't have the Red Skull twist. Him and Bettina could go in, which maybe we'll get to see if Bettina actually is a beast or not.
Yeah, and just from the previews, it seems like they are going to be targeting the champs, which it was so funny. They showed the pictures of CT and Ashley, but not Amber B. But as much as I love Ashley, the mindset's totally sound to say, hey, let's get these people out. We need new winners. If you let Ashley and CT get to the end together, if they happen to ever get together, like that's a dangerous combo. And the way this game dwindles, it could totally happen.
Who do you think is the weakest guy left in this game?
Josh seems like the easy answer. Although this might surprise you and totally correct me because I've not really paid that much attention. But Logan hasn't done anything to really stand out to me. And maybe it's just because I think he's kind of an ass. But even it's got to be Josh.
Yeah, and because I'm thinking to myself, like, if you're going to throw Ashley into elimination, you got to pair them with who you think the weakest guy is. And Josh has been good in the daily challenges this season, but in eliminations, we've seen him just crumble under pressure time and time again. So, goddamn, watching Ashley have to deal with Josh elimination could be hilarious. On the male side, CT could get thrown into elimination with Big T, and I mean, I don't know. They'll probably give him a puzzle if they did that.
Yeah, probably. And even Bettina, I hate to say it because they've been calling her a superstar or whatever they said all evening, but she doesn't stand out to me.
No, I mean, I find her extremely likable, but she's just in the shadows. Hopefully she shows us something, and hopefully we get more next week because we didn't hate this episode, but we didn't love it either.
Yeah, I would agree. And I feel like with Priscilla making that big move, we're surely bound to get more drama next week. I mean, we saw it in the preview, so I'm excited for that.
I do want to say that, like, before the season, I interviewed Tori Deal, and she said Priscilla makes a very controversial move in this game. And to me, this move wasn't controversial at all. It was a smart move. I'm like, this is what you call controversy. This is how lame you vets were playing the game. Like, no, she just played them. She made the move someone should have made 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. We're getting a little lackluster and stale, so I'm hoping we pick some stuff up.
Agreed. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe to Caffeine Confessionals on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Twitter @Final Reckoning. Have a great day.